Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. We are live in downtown Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. We'll continue here with professional poker player Shaun Deeb. For those of you just tuning in right now, Shaun's been in studio for the last half an hour. If you missed any of it, I highly suggest you go back and find it on the Follow the Money podcast a little bit later on today. It was superb. He won his 7th World Series of Poker bracelet this summer. He took down the biggest Omaha tournament in history, and he is the leader in the Player of the Year rankings as well. You were before that hour ended, Shaun, you were telling this story about a lightning bet or lightning bets that you thought was really, really well done in previous years. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this gentleman at my table Martin was a few tables over, and everyone who's watching any poker clip he says not like that all the time. So there's 45 minutes left in the level, and he's like, let's make an over-under bet. I said, let's do a lightning bet. I'll pay you $700 up front. Every time he says not like that, I get $100 back from you. So in the first 10 minutes, he paid me back $600. I have 35 more minutes to go. I'm like, I'm going to print on this bet. But Martin's also short in the tournament. But I also know if Martin gets all in and gets knocked out, he's going to say at least 5 to 7 of them as he's on the way out the door. So for the next 20 minutes, he doesn't say it once. And we're like a few tables over. We're just both leaning back trying to listen to see if we can hear it. And this guy's playing a pot. And I'm taking money out of the cup holder that he has. And so Martin went 20 minutes, and in the last 5 minutes, he played a hand where he said it like 4 times. So I ended up profiting $300 on the bet. But like, it's just for 45 minutes, we're just sitting there laughing about how ridiculous this is. And I have so many dumb prop bets of the World Series. This whole summer we've been playing a game called Codenames for money, and I'm the biggest fish of Codenames in the group chat. I'm down a lot of units. Thank God we're playing cheap, and my friends are all mad because I go deep in every tournament. They're like, we need you to stop winning every tournament so you can play more Codenames. We need to make some money back. So, it's just fun. Like, we love gambling small amounts on a lot of things, and it really makes the whole World Series go by faster.
What a life. Amazing.
It is great. That's what I love, too, about all the side bets and the stuff that's going on at the table. And even I used to watch back in the day Antonio and whoever.
Phil Locke, I bet you show. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was very good. But you're betting on what the person's answer is going to be.
So Loudon thinks. Yeah. So that's a game me and Dan Wyman, the main event champ for 2023. We've played that game with so many people and have said we have some of the most ridiculous questions out there. But
can you do one of them?
Yeah. So since I know that I can't say everything, but one of my favorite things is you ask a guy and a girl, how many unique male members, like their privates, have you seen? And it's really funny because like you think girls' numbers going to be higher. And then the more times you do the question, there's a lot of guys in locker rooms and other things have seen a lot of unique ones. So that's always a fun one to get someone's number. And then there was one time, it was actually a dealer at the World Series of Poker. She was like, hey, ask me the question for Loudon Thinks. I'm like, okay, me and Dan do it. And she's dealing the final table of the main. And she says her number's like 1,300 or something. Like, what? She's like, yeah, I used to be in the medical field. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, but I was like dying. Like, this 30-year-old girl is just like, yeah, I've seen 1,300 unique ones. I'm like, what did you do in your past life? But there's a lot of fun ones. Like, we'll bet, the last time Alan Kessler had, intercourse. Like, there's just so many funny ones out there. Yeah.
He's a character. Okay, that was good. What was the you know what the answer was?
So we never got the true answer from Alan, but we did have a friend of his, a very close friend, who wanted to bet. It's been at least 20 years because he's too cheap to pay for it, and some girls have been interested in him, but he's turned it down. I love me some Alan Kessler.
Okay.
He's been needling me on Twitter. I've been needling him.
It's good.
It's great, the banter that so many of the guys in poker have with each other.
Biggest purchase after a win?
My wife will probably buy some houses for rental properties.
Okay.
Yeah, she's in Denver right now, trying to look at some stuff for a summer home, and I'm like, no, we're not gonna have a summer home there. I'm never gonna use it, but she's enjoying her time in Denver. So yeah, she spends all the money.
Sure.
I just make the money.
Thing that bothers you most? One thing about poker, or one thing you don't like?
just the public image of the industry. You know, how many people will meet me and be like, oh, you're a professional gambler, and kind of scoff like, oh, well, how do you really make money? Like, how do you provide for your family? You know, those things have always bothered me because the public perception of the industry for so long was seedy, back alley, shady, the peoples and rounders trying to cheat. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are not nowhere near that. And yes, there are plenty of people who try to cheat, but that's in every industry. Sports betting, you know, any form of gambling, someone playing blackjack. I mean, people are going to try to cheat whenever there's money involved. But the best players, you know, try to protect the industry as best we can.
Okay, we have to ask you about the controversy, and I know it came up, just you have to talk about it all the time, but the last time you were in studio, you mentioned the incident that happened with Gus Hansen. I think it's different, but you can talk about your backstory with Gus Hansen and also your thoughts on the controversy with the egregious chip dumping that occurred.
Yeah, so, you know, I think it was literally the week before I started dating my now wife. I played Heads Up, this $25,000 satellite, to play the first ever $1 million buy-in World Series event. And I get Heads Up with Gus Hansen. We're about equal in chips. First place is $888K because the tournament had $100,000 and $111,000 rake for charity. And second place was $1 million in cash. So I was like, I would rather take the cash than play the tournament. And Gus wanted to play the tournament, but he didn't send his money in initially, so he had to play the satellite. So I raise all but one of my chips. Gus goes all in, I fold, and then he wins a few hands later. And, you know, everyone knew about it. It was not hidden. And, you know, when it came to this promotion from WPT Gold, they basically made it so first place was super top heavy. You know, it's kind of crazy because there was an earlier event where first place was $220K. The kid who won it won an extra $1 million from WPT. He's had a massive chip lead, so he didn't have to do a side deal. But, like, that makes the prize pool so disproportionate for him. So, you know, these two guys get Heads Up, and when they were three-handed, they approached the third guy, Josh Richard, if he wants to do a chop. And Josh says, no, I want to play for it. And then Josh plays a hand where some people are claiming he was chip dumping or he was involved. I know Josh well. I know his circle. He just wanted to win it outright, and he's, you know, has success, won the most circuit rings. He never plays that much high stakes or that much anyway, but he's like the Shaun Deeb of the circuit. Like, he just shows up, plays everything when he does, and crushes. And he didn't want to do the deal, and so Jesse and Kroll, you know, came to an agreement that was profitable for both of them, and then they did what they did. And, you know, I understand the World Series banned them. I believe and I hope that it's only a temporary ban, and the World Series paid out and WPT played out. So it's people want to give this thing like, you know, it's so bad for poker. These guys are both professionals who are there to make money. If imagine whatever job you guys say, here's your contract, you make $200K a year, but you can do this thing where you now are going to make $700K this year. You're going to say yes. You're going to do what you can, you know. And it wasn't like they affected anyone else. They didn't cheat a third party. I know the World Series thinks they cheated them, but I really think that two people are there to make money. They made the most money possible, and I think, you know, part of the reason WPT got so much, you know, attention is because of the way the World Series handled it. But supposedly, I was told, this is all third-hand knowledge, so I could be speaking on my ass. Apologies to anyone, but I think it was more of a gaming and a Caesars issue than a World Series issue is what really got them mad. So, and I think if their tournament wasn't streamed, it would never go viral. It's like, how many times do things happen because there's video of it? It makes it that bigger of a deal. So me and Gus, you know, it was in the back room at the Rio at 4 a.m. There was a couple articles written on it. There was nothing really. But if it was a stream thing, maybe, you know, people give us more of a hard time about it. But who knows? It wasn't for a bracelet. It was just for a satellite. But, you know, I know of other people who have made deals for bracelets in the past, including some of the biggest names. So I'm not surprised that it happened, and I think it will happen again in the future, just probably not on that scale, and if people do it, they're going to be a little more creative.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so you mentioned that you hope it's a temporary ban. If it's not, and this thing like is drawn out, is there a point you think down the road where, I don't know, you or other poker players like band together and just go at them and say, enough's enough, come on, they got to get back in?
So poker players have done a few strikes in different online poker realm. It's almost never happened in the live realm. I think there was one time where the Alex Romvik and Jake Schindler were really hated for cheating the community, and poker players basically said, like, if you invite him, we're not going to play.
Okay.
And they end up getting barred. You know, I've done that with sometimes with Sean Perry. I'm like, if he's here, I'm not going to be here. I've told like producers of a show, I'm like, if you want me to show up, if he's here, I'm out. So you have a choice to pick him or me, you know, from our own personal issues, me and him. So I think they're going to get back in. I think poker players are it's hard for them to agree to boycott the World Series or do something like that. I don't really know what stance we could. Maybe we could say we skip an event, but and it might not even be a World Series choice. Like, there's a good friend of mine, Sam Panzica, has been banned for 15 years from the World Series. Had great success in WPT, but when he was 21, he got drunk at the main event final table and threatened to bring a gun in, and he got certified as a terrorist in their black book security thing, and so they've never been able to get him unbanned. I fought for him. Jack Effel's fought for him, and security's like, he's too much of a liability. So it's one of those running gags of the World Series. Everyone makes fun of Sam for it. It really sucks for him. He's a really nice kid. He was just making his biggest score ever, drunk. They were giving him a hard time. And he was, he was trying to be funny, and it just was taken the wrong way. And he's been life banned for, I think, 15 years now.
My God.
Yeah.
Over under when you can catch Johnny Chan in bracelets.
I'll give myself 2 years for Johnny Chan.
Yeah?
He's only got 10. 3 more.
Yeah.
I got Europe, Paradise. I got a few more events this year. I think I'm on pace to make about 1.5 bracelets a year. So
Ivy? How about Ivy?
Ivy's
4 behind Ivy.
Ivy's a little harder because he's playing, and he's playing well.
Yes.
He obviously made the final table with me in the 100K. He plays the highest buy-in events. So I think Ivy's like a 4 to 5 year thing. Ivy's definitely getting back to peak Ivy mode.
Thanks for coming in. We're rooting for you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Take it home. All right, take it home, Shaun Deeb. Want to know where the money's really going? Unlike other sources, our splits come straight from Circa and DraftKings. See the percentage of bets versus percentage of handle on every game across every major sport, helping you make smarter, more informed bets. Get our exclusive betting splits as little as $9.99 for your first month. VSiN.com/subscribe. Get it now, $9.99. VSiN.com/subscribe.
That was awesome, Shaun. Can't thank you enough, and kill it moving forward as well. And maybe we'll catch up again down the road. Post-summertime or something like that. You're going to get in the Grandissimo, $100,000 buy-in Survivor?
So my uncle literally called and asked me about that. He's like, well, there's only 2 people. I'm like, listen, it's going to fill. And if it's 3 away, yes, I will book a thing, last minute. But yeah, it's unfortunately I don't live in Vegas, so it's unlikely you guys see me outside of this.
All right, we'll get into some NFL awards coming up next. Trends don't pay the rent, but I think this is important.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Our thanks to professional poker player Shaun Deeb taking time out of his schedule to come in studio today. We had him in for 45 minutes. Again, if you missed any of it, you can always go back and listen to the Follow the Money podcast wherever you get your podcast. I would grade him close to an A-plus guest. Right?
Concur.
And we don't say that all the time, but...
Oh, there's so many great stories here, too. But
Man.
yeah, like you said, though, the life, right? Okay, just won $2.9 million. Took home bracelet number 7. On to the next event. Oh, I'm the chip leader. I'm playing heads up to win another event, and the guy who beats me is like a professional backgammon player. That story, and then just what goes on at the table, like he
all
talked
the prop
about.
bets. I mean, they think of stuff every single day to bet on.
Yeah, sure. And also, help passing the time, too, because a lot of times you're just folding and you can't get cards. How about that answer where I'm so creative with the pre-flop?
That was the most maybe, I don't want to call it alarming, but I guess the best perspective that he could possibly give on himself, right? He's so creative, and he loves his game pre-flop, and then he actually said that when the cards come, that's when I have to improve my game.
Yeah.
Like all the action happens pre-flop for him.
It's like watching Picasso paint here. I mean, you're talking about could win the Player of the Year again, and already 7. Not only did he win the $2.9 million tournament, he's a bunch of second places and a third.
I know, right? Think about that for a second.
He could be up to 11 events. 11 bracelets here with what he's done, how much damage he's done. I can't believe.
By the way, another answer. You have that big of a chip lead. What do you say? 31 million compared to 3 million or 2.5 million to the other guys. Maybe one guy had 4 million. He was down. He's 90%, 95% to win that tournament. He gives it back, and he wipes it out of his memory within 5 minutes.
That I can't believe. I mean, that would haunt and it'd stay with you, would think, right? But just to block it out or just stay focused and on to the next. Okay, it's a new day. It's a new tournament, and that's. When he won the tournament, he beat Ike Haxton. He was down to 3,000 chips. Haxton had 30,000. It's like he's like in 5th place in chips. There's no way he's going to come back.
Right.
And he's all in and he doubles up. And the next thing you know, comes back. He's heads up with Haxton. And he takes him out. But I was shocked that he was able to wasn't able to bring it down with the other one or take it down. But that's poker, and it's also the variance he talked about too.
All right, some NFL here. Adam Burke has had some great write-ups this week on vsin.com talking about specific awards markets. We'll begin here with Offensive Rookie of the Year. When you go back and look at the last 10 winners and kind of what they have done, Daniels last year was so good. 4,459 total yards, 39 combined touchdowns, 31 that is. The Commanders made the playoffs. The year before that, Stroud had the best INT percentage in football. His touchdown to INT rate was 23-5. He threw for 274 yards passing per game. The list goes on, right? And you have to put up, in this day and age, the rookie is going to have like phenomenal numbers regardless of position that they play. And it's not always quarterback. In the last 10 years, Pauly, we've had 5 of them win, but 3 running backs have taken it down. Todd Gurley did 10 years ago, Kamara 2 years after that, and then Barkley. 2 wide receivers also have won the award. Chase did it now 5 years ago. Wilson did it the year after him. But here's, I think, the part that you need to pay attention to. And this trend, I think, it might mean something for this. 8 out of the last 10 Rookie of the Year winners in the NFL have been first-round picks. All 8 of those picks were also in the top 10. For what it's worth, nobody has been unanimous since Ben Roethlisberger in 2004. But you look, we have...
Well, it's why I think you could cash a big ticket here because of the Hunter, Genty, and Ward angle. And also, Genty's going to be popular, and then Hunter playing both ways. Well, this could be popular, right?
Yeah,
you get a long shot that comes in.
Genty's too popular for my liking.
Oh, and the price is too low.
There's no way I could bet him at plus 250.
No.
That's just above where Caleb Williams was last year. Williams is like plus 180. I'm like, I can't bet that number. There's no way. So the 5 picks that were in the top 10 this past year, Cam Ward, he's plus 350. Hunter, you mentioned, just to win this award, he's 10-1. Genty's plus 250. These are all at DraftKings. You might be able to find better numbers. McMillan with the Panthers is 15-1, and then Colston Loveland for the Bears is 30-1. I know we had Scott Seidenberg on this show last week, and he gave out Loveland and his reason why at 30-1. I will just tell you that a tight end has never won the award. And if I will add on top of that, if Brock Bowers couldn't win it last year, I personally have a tough time thinking that a tight end is going to win the award.
Yeah.
Nothing about, I'm not taking a knock here or shot at Scott's analysis. He had, in fact, it was a great deep dive on it and why he liked him so much. But a tight end has never won the award. So some other players who were taken in the first round, but not the top 10. Tyler Warren with the Colts, he's 40-1. Emeka Egbuka, the Buccaneers, I can't get behind him. They have too many weapons on offense.
Yeah.
Omarion Hampton with the Chargers, also with Najee Harris now at running back, he's 10-1. Matthew Golden with the Packers is 25, and Jackson Dart with the Giants is 35-1.
That's insane. That should be 100 at least. He's not going to play, and they're not going to win games.
The other guy I would look at
in there later in the season if he comes in.
Yeah, I think I would much rather have Scadaboo than.
Yeah, got a coach on the hot seat. Dable's not going to go to the rookie that soon.
No, I can't imagine. So, and Hampton is too short for me at 10-1. There's a path where Hampton absolutely could win the award and have just a phenomenal year. But I know fantasy people are going to say that he is going to take over as the number 1 back there ahead of Najee Harris. How long will that take though? And then with Matthew Golden, to me, that's with Green Bay, he's going to have to emerge as like the number 1 guy. Now, can he do that? Sure, because right now it's between like Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. I like both those guys, but I feel like the Packers also spread it around far too much for anybody on this team to win an award. Outside the first round, Travion Henderson is 18-1, but, again, is he going to be like the number 1 guy out of the gates with Ramondre Stevenson, the other running back there in New England? Quinshon Judkins is 18-1 with Cleveland. Now, this is a guy that I can probably get behind because look at the depth chart of the Cleveland Browns, Pauly. You're talking about Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, and Pierre Strong. Like, Judkins could be the guy from the get-go, and then I think you're throwing darts here to figure out what quarterback is it going to be.
Did you see the updated numbers? At FanDuel, Flacco's a small favorite. Pickett's 2-1 now to start week 1.
Sure.
We had a couple guests on who said it's going to be Pickett, but Flacco is the favorite at FanDuel.
I mean, do you want to do Shador 20?
No.
Gabriel 35?
No.
Can't do it either.
No.
RJ Harvey is 20-1. The Broncos depth chart is J.K. Dobbins, Audric Estime, and Jaleel McLaughlin. How is Sean Payton going to utilize those running backs this year? RJ Harvey, by the way, I think opened up higher than 30-1 after the draft. Plenty of steam on him. That's a tricky proposition for me.
Yep.
And Tyler Shuck, according to reports,
Yep.
not get, he's 10-1 right now. And I took a little bit of him the day that actually it was like the minute that we found out that Derek Carr was not going to play this year. I grabbed him just in case, because I always like to look at like the backup quarterback angle, and it was a much better number than 10-1. But everybody is thinking the Saints are just going to be an abomination this year. Mm-hmm. But I will point this out, and good analysis here again by Adam Burke. He says that team success isn't exactly a prerequisite. The Texans, Bengals, Saints, and Cowboys were all division winners within the last 10 years when those players won it, or when the Rookie of the Year won it. But the Commanders, Jets, Chargers, Cardinals, Giants, and Rams were not. And of the 6 non-division winners, the Commanders last year with Jane Daniels winning the award, they were the only team to make the playoffs. So I think
very good.
The idea there would be maybe Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Because he could put up, he's going to have a lot to work with there in theory, with the receivers that he can throw to. He can put up really good numbers on a team that wins 6 games and still win the award.
Possible. Yeah. Good breakdown. We're doing this tomorrow too, but Coach of the Year, how many wins do you have to get? Like what? I recommended it. Matt Brown recommended it when he was on air too. What does Denver have to do for Peyton to win it? They went the playoffs last year. It was a great story. It's a good coaching job. What, do they have to win the division? They got to win 11, 12? What also happens around the league? 1 year Harbaugh won it. In 2019, they were 14-2. You have that angle?
Let me ask this. Yeah. Can Sean Payton win the award if the Broncos win 12 games but they don't win the division?
No, I can't see it.
I think so.
As after what happened last year? Maybe if Knicks takes a huge jump, and Knicks looks great, they'll give him credit for that, but still, I don't think that can happen. Let me throw one. How about Pete Carroll? Now, they're going to have to win like 8-9 games, but your buddy's out. How bad was Pierce? So now you get Pierce out. You bring in Carroll. That stuff's contagious with his attitude and his nonstop energy. You have Genty. You have a decent quarterback in Smith. Solid defense. They surprise people. He's a likable guy.
Sure he is.
The media loves him. They get to 8-9 wins. Maybe 9-8 does it for Pete Carroll.
Yeah,
one's made the case for him, but certainly they picked to finish in last, though.
My follow-up would be, again, can the Raiders win 9 games, miss the playoffs, and Pete Carroll win? I think maybe he could. Because this team has been, Paul, they have been atrocious now, with the exception of 1 year.
Yeah. But everyone talking about the roster, and they don't have this, they don't have that. But you're going from a horrific coach to a guy who's won a Super Bowl and a proven guy. Oh. That could just be, it could be night and day with him in there.
Up next, professional sports bettor Paul Stone's going to join the program. He is at Big 12 Media Days. He's going to preview that conference with best bets, outright winners, some win totals, and the game of the year. Coming up on Follow the Money, it's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Let's get some best bets in college football, specifically the Big 12 Conference Media Days ongoing this week. And a longtime friend of this show, he's joining us every single week throughout the summer months to get us summer previews for all these conferences and best bets. Paul Stone is there live, and he is on the Progressive Guest Line. Good afternoon, Paul. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
Doing well. Really enjoying Big 12 Media Days today. A lot of coaches and players, and they're doing a great job at the Star here in Frisco, Texas.
How is Frisco? Nice little town?
It's one of the fast growth cities in the U.S. They've got a fantastic tax base, and the Cowboys with this facility out here.
Yeah.
They ought to win the Super Bowl every once in a while, maybe win a few games. But, man, it is state of the art. It's just incredible. I really, I used to be a sports writer in a previous life, but I hadn't been out here before. Don't have a great, don't follow the NFL that closely. But, man, this is a fantastic blocks of facilities out here.
Yeah, so it looks like when I've seen pictures before, like on social media. All right, let's begin with a win total that you like. In Oklahoma State, when you go back and look under Mike Gundy, and he's been there for many, many years now, starting in 2010, let's say, they won double-digit games 6 out of 8 years. And then 3 years in a row they did not. They came back and were 12-2 in 2021. They were 10-4 2 years ago. Last year, I mean, a heavy thud there in Stillwater, Paul. They went 3-9. I guess how the mighty have fallen here would be a question. Their win total is 5.5. What do you want to do with that?
Oh, I'll tell you hit it on the nail, Mitch. I mean, love him, loathe him, like him, whatever. Mike Gundy and the Oklahoma State Cowboys, to me, they're kind of the poster child of how quickly a program can fall or change in the age of NIL. You know, it's just incredible. This is a team, a program that recently they won 10 games in 2023. They played the Texas Longhorns for the Big 12 championship about 19 months ago. Last year, they slipped to 3 wins in 2024. And I just don't see any reason to think they're going to be any better this year. I mean, in fact, if you look at the Power 4 teams, there's 60 some odd teams in those 4 conferences, the Power 4. Oklahoma State is unquestionably one of the 5 worst teams in the Power 4 conferences. I mean, the only 2 teams that I can look at and I can say they are clearly power rated worse than Oklahoma State, those are Purdue and Stanford. So this team is really fallen off the map. They've got relative gimmies as far as their schedule to start the season with Tennessee, Martin, and Tulsa. But after that, they might not be favored in any of their remaining 10 games. They don't get to play West Virginia in conference play. They play Arizona and UCF, 2 other teams predicted to finish in the bottom half of the league on the road. So that's another negative. Their defense was atrocious last year, gave up over 38 points a game, gave up more than 38 points or more, I should say, in each of their last 8 games. So 38 or more in each of their last 8 games, an average of 43 points a game that they allowed down the stretch. It's just not a very good football team. I don't see how in the world they're going to win 5 games, even 4 games maybe. I've recommended them at under 5.5 wins, minus 154 at FanDuel. If you've got access to any alternate win totals, I don't see this team really winning more than 3 games. I just think this Oklahoma State team doesn't have the talent to really compete at a high level in a conference like the Big 12.
Excellent breakdown. How about another win total and another under? He said at the press conference he never should have left. Rich Rod back with West Virginia. Phil Steele picks them last in the conference. What do you think of West Virginia? Win total 5.5.
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, Rich Rod returns to Morgantown, and used to be a song that said the second time around, and the theme of that song was the second time around is going to be better than the first. But I think that's a lie. You know, I don't think that's the case in romance, and I don't think it's the case in college football either. This is a team, they lose their top 2 players, arguably, in their program. Top running back C.J. Donaldson, he's off to Ohio State. Their linebacker Josiah Trotter, son of the former NFL great Jeremiah Trotter, after just 1 season at West Virginia, a season in which he was the Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year, he's off to Missouri. They're going to be favored in their opener versus FCS Robert Morris. But in the remaining 11 games, much like Oklahoma State, I don't see a game that they will clearly be the favorite in. So they might only be favored against 1 team this year. Got the 32nd toughest schedule in the country, according to one publication. They don't get Oklahoma State, Arizona, or Houston in conference play. Got a lot of roster turnover. They've got 52 new players. That's never a good thing. So a lot of turnover on the roster. I just don't think they're going to be burning many couches in Morgantown this fall. Yeah. If you bet on the Mountaineers, you might be burning money. I like West Virginia to go under their win total of 5.5, minus 150 at Bet Rivers.
All right, very good. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, professional sports bettor Paul Stone. He's on the Progressive guest line. You want to split a unit up here and bet on 2 different teams to win the conference this year. Who are they?
I'll tell you, much like last year, Mitch, I'll start out by saying there are 7 teams that could win this conference, in my opinion. Those teams being Arizona State, Utah, Kansas State, Iowa State, TCU, Texas Tech, and Baylor. 7 teams finished within 1 game of the lead last year. Might not be that balanced this year, but you might not have a great team, but you got a lot of really good teams in the Big 12. So I think we're going to split a unit here. We're going to go with 2 kind of mid-range shots. One of those teams was last year's champion, the Arizona State Sun Devils, plus 600. You know, obviously kind of starting with some of the negative, they lose a 1,700-yard rusher in Cam Scattaboo. I think he was many of our favorite, many of us guys who watch college football, perhaps our favorite player in the sport last year. Not only the productivity on the field, but just his toughness, his grit. He was kind of the heartbeat of the team. So I certainly don't downplay his loss, but they return a lot of talent. I mean, looking at offense, they return one of the nation's top returning quarterbacks in Sam Levitt. He's a true dual threat guy, rushed for almost 500 yards last year. They returned an 1,100-yard receiver in Jordan Tyson. So they got people coming back on offense. Then they've got a defense that was one of the Big 12's very best last year, gave up 22.6 points per game against FBS opponents last year, gave up 340 yards total offense. Got a lot of people back on that defense, 11 of their top 13 tacklers. So that tells you what they've got going on. One thing going against the Sun Devils, they do have a pretty tough conference draw. They play road games at Baylor, Utah, and Iowa State. They don't draw Kansas State, so that's a check mark in their favor. But they will be favored in their final 3 games of the season, 2 of those by double digits. If they can get through the first 6 games of conference at 4-2, they're going to win those last 3, I think. That would probably get them in the conference championship game. So I like Arizona State at plus 600. And then the other team that I'm going to take half a unit on are the Baylor Bears at plus 700. Dave Aranda took the stage today in Frisco. He said, this is the most talented team I've had since I've been at Baylor. This is his 6th season. If you'll remember back in 2021, Baylor won the Big 12 championship. They beat both Texas and Oklahoma in that season. You guys will remember the conference championship victory over Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State had the ball first and goal from the 2, couldn't score. He says this is his most talented team since he's been in Waco. Last year, didn't look like Aranda was going to be back. They lost by 22 to Iowa State, fell to 2-4 on the season, 0-3 in conference play. They won their last 6 regular season games. Had quite the resurgence. They return a lot of people on offense. They'll be one of the better offenses in all of college football, in my opinion. Their quarterback, Sawyer Robertson, is back. Their 1,000-yard rusher, Bryson Washington, back. Also, their top receiver, Josh Cameron, back. So they got a lot of talent back. Defense gave up almost 29 a game last year. Got to be better. I think they will be better. I like Baylor plus 700 for a half a unit. If they were to make the conference championship game, it'll be played pretty close to their backyard, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas in December.
All right, Paul, can you do the game of the year in about a minute? That's what we have left here. You like Pittsburgh over West Virginia?
We can do that in a minute. I touched on West Virginia's situation. They've got a new coach. They've got a new starting quarterback. They've got more than 50 new players. And, some of the personnel that they've lost, obviously some of the best players in their program. On the other hand, you look at Pittsburgh, they've got a pretty good nucleus returning. They've got a sophomore quarterback in Eli Holstein, who's one of the better returning quarterbacks in college football. They've got a 5'8", 175-pound scat back, Desmond Reed. He was a guy last year, 962 yards rushing, 579 yards receiving, a really dynamic player out of the backfield for the Panthers. They returned 9 of their top 13 tacklers, so got a lot of people back on defense. That includes first-team All-ACC linebacker Kyle Lewis. So a lot of talent back on defense. The backyard brawl, a big-time game. Hate to take a road favorite in these kind of games. Pittsburgh, though, they're better than West Virginia. Pitt minus 2.5 over the Mountaineers.
Excellent job. There you go. You can follow him on X at Paul Stone Sports. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it as always. Enjoy the rest of our media days, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great week.
You too.
Thank you.
There you go. We're going to expand on the Coach of the Year in the NFL coming up next. We brought it up. We'll go back to it. We'll go over recent history with the award. This is an important angle to consider when betting it, but it's not the be-all, end-all.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Coming up in 15 minutes, Jeff Seeley, his regular Tuesday appearance. We'll talk PGA Tour. This is actually on the European side now, with a European Tour, as it's a Scottish Open. We'll get his best bets on that tournament coming up at that time, Pauly. And we'll get into NFL Coach of the Year here. Again, some great stuff as we speak on VSiN.com. There is every single day of the year, regardless of what month we're in. And Adam Burke has some great write-ups. We kicked around the Offensive Player of the Year earlier this hour. Here we'll do Coach of the Year. I know when we did this a lot, it was like during the pandemic. You're sitting there after the show's over with back then at 7 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. You're like, okay, now what are we going to talk about tomorrow?
Don't remind me.
Oh, boy. So, although those were some fun shows, I have to be honest. And then, you had all the time in the world to go back and do a ton of research on all this stuff. And it was really alarming to me at how first-year coaches were either in play to win this award or they would actually win it. And now it's drifted a little bit. Since the year 2000, only 9 first-year coaches have won the award. Last year, Kevin O'Connell, not a first-year coach. In 2023, it was Kevin Stefanski, not a first-year coach. He won it, in fact, when he was a first-year coach back in 2020. Dable was in 2022. Vrabel was not the year before that. Harbaugh was not the year before that. Matt Nagy was. Sean McVay was. But then Garrett and Rivera were not as you go back the last 10 years overall. I would say that it's kind of a key element to the handicap. But, Paul, as I said before the break, not the be-all, end-all. But also I will point out, back then when PASPA was only passed in 2018, and then more books were starting to offer this kind of stuff. It's not like this award was around forever to bet on in Nevada. They used to offer first-year coaches around 50, 60 to 1. They didn't know how to price the market. They would offer Bill Belichick at 12 to 1. Well, what would Belichick have to do with the best team in football to win the award? I mean, go 14-3?
Yeah.
And, so now that's completely flipped because you look at the top of the odds board here. Mike Vrabel, to me, is absolutely unbettable at 6 to 1. He's followed by a bunch of other first-year coaches on the job now.
It's crazy. The price on Vrabel and the price on Johnson is absurd, which I'm not sold on the Patriots, and I think it's a big leap to suggest they're going to be a playoff team or get to 9 wins. And then it's also, Williams and the Bears have to prove it, although Johnson's a genius, and again, it's a big step up from that crap that they had to deal with last year and that horrible coaching staff. But you're in a tough division, and that's what could hold them back. I mentioned Carroll earlier because a couple of these guys to win this, they didn't do much. I thought the Dable thing was ridiculous. Paul Allen, voice of the Vikings, I know, agreed. Well, they didn't beat anybody that year. They won 9 games, but the schedule was so easy, and you took over for that buffoon judge.
Sure.
And the same thing happened with Nagy. How bad the Bears coaching staff was. We were promised creativity and imagination and scheming up, and that didn't really happen. But they won 12 games, easy schedule, and then the double doink happened, and Nagy was gone short there afterwards. But I think that's why maybe comparisons to Carroll earlier, considering who you're taking over for, even though you're expected to be in last place. And I know Cohen is popular as well. Can you fix Lawrence? Could you win that division? Houston takes a step back, and maybe you get to 10, 11 wins, and that could open the door for Cohen.
Sure. So you hit on it right there as well. I think bigger than being a first-year head coach, it's the team that's going to have a major win improvement, right? Because the numbers don't lie here. Kevin O'Connell last year, the Vikings had a 7 win improvement over the previous year. And also Sam Darnold had career highs in touchdowns, yards passing, completion percentage, and a bunch of other stats as well. In 2023, Stefanski and the Browns had a 4-win improvement, and he also had 5 different starting quarterbacks. That's the part that you can't handicap, is that, give me the team where they're going to have 2 or 3 quarterbacks that are going to go down, and then the guy's going to have to work, a miracle with it. Yeah. But the Browns back in 2020 also had a 5-win improvement. Dable, you mentioned it. I would probably agree with you that he was not the rightful winner of the award. He did a really good job, but other, great.
Sirianni was $4 favorite late in the season.
Yeah, late in the season.
Wasn't even a finalist.
But they did go from 4-13 to 9-7-1, and it was their first playoff appearance and winning record since 2016. Another angle here, right? Like, how long has the team been out of the playoffs? When was their last winning record? Maybe that's where Pete Carroll thing could tie in as well. Vrabel was intriguing because they were the 1 seed in 2021. They won 11 games the previous year, and they went from in a 16-game season, they were 11-5, then they improved to 12-5, and they won the division title for the second consecutive year. He received 0 votes the previous year, and then won it in 2021. But I think a lot of that was because it was with Ryan Tannehill, and they beat out all these other really, really good teams for the 1 seed in the AFC. John Harbaugh in 2019. The Ravens had a
unique year, yeah. But a guy who gets it with 14-2 record.
Sure, that was a 4-win improvement.
Mm-hmm.
They also had a point differential of plus 249. Like, they were a machine that year. Matt Nagy, they went from 5-11 to 12-4. Sean McVay, they went from 4-12 to 11-5. That was also the first playoff appearance for the Rams since 2004. First division title since 2003. Garrett and the Cowboys had a 9-win improvement from 2015 to 2016. And also remember, that was the year the Cowboys had that incredible draft because they took Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott. And then in 2015, Ron Rivera won it for the second time. The Panthers won 15 games, an 8-win improvement, and they had the best record in the NFL. So I think that's where I have a tough time with Sean Payton. When you go back and look at how key like the win improvement has been, again, I think they have to win 13, 14 games and that division for him to win the award.
Yeah, I thought maybe 12 was doable, and that's why I throw it out there in the guide. But my biggest one was Morris or Bulls. Not that they're great coaches, but that one of those teams are going to win the division. And then a 1 or 2 seed is possible when you see what the schedules are of the NFC North and who the Eagles have to play. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they'll give it to Shanahan with San Francisco because of the talent. So who are we missing? I did right, though. If Detroit goes over the win total, you might have to give it to Campbell. Their schedule's so tough. You lose both coordinators. People like them, biting kneecaps. If they're still able not to come in and miss a beat and they win 12 games and win that division, I think Campbell's going to get a lot of support, and he's 22-1. I could see that.
I would not disagree with that. I mean, he's going to have to be a major reason why. I think if they, under that scenario, like if they're the 1 seed again and they win 12, 13 games, they would think about that. They would actually take a step back from how many games they won last year, and in theory, the guy would still be in the mix. I'll give you a couple here to possibly consider. One would be in the NFC West, not Seattle. They won 10 games last year. I'm not going to get behind Mike McDonald. I was last year. Can't do that. But in Arizona, if Jonathan Gannon and the Cardinals were to somehow, like, let's say if they win that division, and I think they have a pretty damn good roster, and this guy, I think they also play really hard for him. I think 11 wins and in the mix to win that division could maybe do it for him. And the other guy where you're looking at maybe a massive win improvement and then maybe a playoff spot, either like in the conversation on top of that, or if they were to make it, why not Dave Canales in Carolina?
Yeah, that could happen. Yeah, certainly the pass there. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's... Well, they win 9 games, yeah, sure.
If you take your opinion out of what you think of the team for 1 second, just say, like, okay, again, it's not going to be an overwhelmingly difficult schedule. Bryce Young was a completely different player the last half of the season a year ago. And if they were to somehow shock the world and win like 9 games to have a 4-win improvement from last year, it's pretty damn good. And I mentioned Pete Carroll. They won 4 games last year.
Yep.
They have been a laughingstock for a long, long time.
No, you said it earlier. They get to 8 or 9, yeah. He's going to get support. Media likes him. Fan favorite as well.
I think there's an angle there where maybe Canales and or Carroll could win that many games, 9, let's say, and they're a non-playoff team, and they could be in the conversation.
A guy set up to fail, it seems to be Schottenheimer. And the Cowboys coming off a 7-10 season. He's 30-1. Could the Cowboys make the... I don't know. It just... They would really have to take off offensively.
Prescott's going to have to be in the MVP consideration. Yeah. And that could happen with, adding George Pickens now in the offseason, and maybe it really works with him and CeeDee Lamb throwing the ball too, obviously. And I think the defense is also going to have to be, like, injury-free. Mm-hmm. Right? And go back to the level of where they played a couple years ago. Yeah. $500 trifecta from GBank, First Bet, and Visa. And open a GBank Visa Signature credit card. And in the first 90 days, deposit and play through $1,000 at First Bet to trigger the $500 try. $200 in cashback rewards on your GBank Visa Signature credit card. First Bet will give you a $100 deposit match. And we complete it with a free subscription through August 31st. $200 value. That's a $500 try from GBank, First Bet, and Visa. Go to VSiN.com/GBank. One-time promotion limited to customers. Open your new account. Apply today. VSiN.com/GBank. Yeah, I'm looking at the standings right now. I forgot that Jacksonville won 4 games a year ago.
Well, he'll get so much credit for fixing Lawrence, too.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. And the Titans did win 3 games, but that's going to take a lot for that team to get Callahan in the mix. The always entertaining Scottish Open is this week. Jeff Seeley on the program next. We'll go over his best bets on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.